Check this out, BCM Rider here, bringing you another Commander deck tech, and today I have a subscriber submission from Power of the Herd. He's always had these very fun horse type themed decks. Today we're looking at Tom Bombadil. This is going to be a commander that focuses on sagas. Sagas are a enchantment where they have counters put on them and different abilities. Each chapter will give you a different ability. At the end of the final chapter of the saga is sacrificed. With Tom Bombadil, as long as there's 4 or more lore counters on these sagas, Tom Bombadil will have hexproof and indestructible. So he's probably not going to go anywhere, and our opponents can't interact with it. And then whenever any final chapter ability of a saga resolves, we get to reveal cards from the top of our library until we reveal another saga card, and we get to put that on the battlefield. Unfortunately, this only triggers once per turn, because if it triggered every time, that would be kind of broken. But let's get right into this. First up are all the creatures. Of course, naturally, we have all the horse creatures, but apart from being a saga deck, we're also focusing on the aggressive strategy of using these horse creatures that have mounts. Mounts are kind of like vehicles, but I'll touch on that in just a second. First up, we have Diamond Mare. When he enters the battlefield, we get to choose a color, and then anytime we cast a spell of the chosen color, we get to gain life. Now we have Bulwark Ox. This is what's called a mount. It has a ability called Saddle, where we can tap any number of untapped creatures with that total power, and it'll become saddled. Whenever this creature attacks while it's saddled, we get to put a +1 counter on any creature we want. Or we can sacrifice this creature. Creatures with counters on them will gain hexproof and indestructible. So this is going to be a good way to protect our other creatures while making them bigger. Now we have Gilded Goda. This is a mount as well, so it has saddle 1. And while this creature attacks while it's saddled, we get to create a treasure token. Now we have Shield Mare. It kind of has protection, but Shield Mare cannot be blocked by red creatures, and when it enters the battlefield or becomes the target of a spell or an ability a opponent controls, we get to gain 3 life. Similar to that, we have Vine Mare. This has hexproof, and it cannot be blocked by black creatures. Now we have Thurid, Bear of Destiny. Anytime we cast another Pegasus, Unicorn, or Horse spell, we get to copy that spell, and that copy becomes a token. But other Pegasi, Unicorns, and Horses all get +1/+1. Now we have Brightfield Mustang. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, we get to untap it and put a +1 counter on it. So it kind of has like pseudo vigilance. And any tribal deck would not be complete without Roaming Throne. This card is absolutely ridiculous. When it enters the battlefield, we get to choose a creature type. In this case, we're going to choose horses. Roaming Throne will be the chosen type in addition to other types. And any kind of triggered ability that would trigger of the chosen type, it would trigger a additional time. This also has Ward 2, so our opponents have to pay 2 colorless mana if they just want to target this. Now, because we are a pretty aggressive deck, we have Iros, God of Victory. This one is not a horse, but in any kind of like go wide aggro strategy, he's really good because he's a 7/4 indestructible enchantment creature god, but he won't be a creature unless your devotion is less than 7, but has a static effect where creatures you control cannot be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. And then we're going to prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures we control. Now we have Crested Sunmare. Other horses we control will be indestructible, and every single end step, if we gain life that turn, we get to create a 5/5 white horse creature token. Now we have Guardian Sunmare. Anytime this creature attacks, if it was saddled, we get to search our library for any non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less, and put it onto the battlefield. Now we have Thundering Mightmare. This has Soul Bond, so when this enters the battlefield, or another creature enters that wasn't soul bonded, we can pair those 2 creatures together. And as long as Thundering Nightmare is paired, each of those creatures are going to have, whenever any opponent casts a spell, we get to put a +1 counter on those creatures. Now we have Shadowfax, Lord of Horses. This is going to give a static ability to every single horse creature by giving them haste. Haste is very important in very aggressive strategies. You want those creatures to either activate abilities or attack the turn they enter the battlefield. And whenever Shadowfax, Lord of Horses, attacks, we can put any creature card with lesser power from our hand on the battlefield tapped and attacking. Now, thanks to the Final Fantasy set, allowed us a new type of saga with saga creatures. These are creatures that are actually enchantment sagas. So, of course, we have Summon Chocomog. All these sagas have chapters and chapter abilities. Unfortunately, the creature will be sacrificed at the end of that final chapter, resolving. For all 5 of these chapters, other creatures will get +1/+0. Now we have Summon Ixion. Chapter 1, get to exile target creature a opponent controls until this saga leaves the battlefield. So we can kind of like O-ring something if we need to. Chapter 2 and 3, we get to put a +1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, and we get to gain 2 life. Now we have Summon Fenrir. Chapter 1, we get to search our library for a basic land and put it on the battlefield. Chapter 2, when we cast our next creature spell, it'll enter the battlefield with an additional +1 counter on it. In Chapter 3, we get to draw a card if we control the creature with the greatest power or tied for the greatest power. Okay, now we have Summon Yojimbo. Chapter 1, we get to exile target artifact, enchantment, or tap creature a opponent controls. Chapter 2 and 3, till our next turn, creatures can't attack us unless their controllers pay 2 colors for each of those attacking creatures. This is kind of like a ghostly prison or a propaganda. And then Chapter 4, we get to create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of opponents who control a creature with power 4 or greater. Now we have Summon Magus Sisters. Chapter 1, 2, and 3, we can put 3 +1 counters on target creature. We can put a shield counter on target creature, then we gain 3 life. Or this creature gets to fight another target creature a opponent controls. Now we have Summon Shiva. Chapter 1 and 2, we get to tap target creature a opponent controls, and we put a stun counter on that permanent. Chapter 3, we get to draw a card for each tap creature your opponent controls. Now we got a real fun one. We have Summon Primal Odin. Chapter 1, we get to destroy target creature a opponent controls. Chapter 2, whenever this creature deals combat damage, that player loses the game. And then Chapter 3, we get to draw 2 cards, and then each player will lose 2 life. Now we have Summon Knights of Round. This is a indestructible 3/3. That's why it costs 8 mana. Chapters 1 through 4, we're going to create 3 2/2 Knight tokens. And then Chapter 5, other creatures will get +2/+2, and we get to put a indestructible counter on each of those creatures. Okay, let's get into all the enchantments. Most of these are sagas themselves. So first up, we have Fall of Yul-Galad. Most of these I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing. Chapter 1, we get to scry 2, and then Chapter 2, we get to put 2 +1 counters on target creature we control. Chapter 3, until end of turn, target creature gains. Whenever that creature dies, we get to draw 2 cards, and then it's going to fight another creature we don't control. Now we have The Girl in the Fireplace. Chapter 1, we get to create a 1/1 Noble with Vanishing 3 that prevents all damage that would be done to that creature. Chapter 2, we get to create a 2/2 Horse token. Yay! And all doctors will have horsemanship. This is kind of like a nod back to Portal 3 Kingdoms, where horsemanship is basically a way that that creature can only be blocked by that certain creature. And then Chapter 3, whenever any creature deals combat damage to a player, we get to time travel. Next, we have the Creation of Avacyn. Chapter 1, we get to search our library for any card and exile it face down. Chapter 2, we get to turn the exile card face up, and we lose life equal to its mana value. Chapter 3, we can put the exile card on the battlefield if it's a creature. If we don't, then it goes back to our hand. Now we have the Raven's Warning. Chapter 1, we're going to create a 1/1 blue bird token with flying, and we gain 2 life. Chapter 2, whenever one or more creatures with flying deal combat damage, we get to look at that player's hand and draw a card. So we get a little bit of information on what our opponents have. And then Chapter 3, we can put any card from outside the game on top of our library. Now we have The Princess Takes Flight. Chapter 1, we get to exile 1 target creature. Chapter 2, creatures we control will get +2/+2 in flying. And then Chapter 3, we return that exiled creature back to the battlefield. Now we have Trial of a Time Lord. Chapters 1, 2, and 3, we get to exile a target non-token creature a opponent controls until trial leaves the battlefield. And then Chapter 4, starting with you, each player will vote for either innocent or guilty. If guilty gets the most votes, the owner of each card exiled with Trial of Time Lord is put on the bottom of their libraries. Now we have Scroll of Isildur. Chapter 1, we get to gain control of one target artifact for as long as we control Scroll, and the Ring will tempt us. Chapter 2, we get to tap up to 2 target creatures and put a stun counter on each of those. And then Chapter 3, we get to draw a card for each tap creature target opponent controls. Now we have Rediscover the Way. Chapter 1 and 2, we get to look at the top 3 cards of our library, put one of them into our hand, and the rest go on the bottom. And then Chapter 3, anytime we cast a non-creature spell that turn, target creature will gain double strike until the end of turn. Now we have Battle for Bredigard. Chapter 1, we get to create a 1/1 human warrior token. Chapter 2, we get to create a 1/1 green elf warrior token. And then Chapter 3, we can choose any number of artifact tokens or creature tokens with different name, and then we get to create a token copy of those. Now we have Binding the Old Gods. Chapter 1, we get to destroy target non-land permanent a opponent controls. Chapter 2, we get to search our library for any forest card and put it on the battlefield tapped. And then Chapter 3, creatures will gain Death Touch until the end of turn. Now we have Oath of the Grey Host. Chapter 1, you and target opponent each create a food token. In Chapter 2, each opponent will lose 3 life, then you create a treasure token. In Chapter 3, we get to create 3 tapped 1/1 white spirit tokens with flying. Now we have Revival of the Ancestors. Chapter 1, we're going to create 3 1/1 white spirits. Chapter 2, we can put 3 +1 counters on up to 3 different targets. And then Chapter 3, creatures gain trample and lifelink until the end of turn. Now we have the Bass Song. Chapters 1 and 2, we get to draw 2 cards, then discard. And then Chapter 3, we can shuffle any number of target cards from our graveyard back into our library, and we add 2 blue mana. Now we have the Caves of Androzani. Chapter 1, we get to put 2 stun counters on up to 2 target tap creatures. That way those creatures don't untap. Then Chapters 2 and 3, for each non-saga permanent, we choose one that has a counter on it, and we get to put an additional counter on that permanent. And then Chapter 4, we get to search our library for any Doctor card and put it into our hand. Now we have War of the Last Alliance. Chapters 1 and 2, we get to search our library for any legendary creature and put it into our hand. In Chapter 3, creatures will gain double strike until the end of turn, and the ring will tempt us. Now we have In the Darkness Binds Them. Chapters 1 through 3, we create a 3/3 Black Wraith creature token with Menace, and the ring will tempt us. And then Chapter 4, for each opponent, we get to gain control of one of their creatures. It'll untap that creature, it'll gain haste, and the ring will tempt us yet again. Now we have Oath of Earl. That's what I'm going to call it. Chapter 1, we get to create 2 1/1 white human soldier tokens. Chapter 2, we create 2 2/2 red human knight tokens with trample and haste. And then Chapter 3, we get to put an indestructible counter on any target human, and we become the Monarch. Monarch is actually a very unique ability in Commander games because it's going to give you card advantage for as long as you're the Monarch until your opponents can deal combat damage to you and take the Monarch from you. Now we have Song of Arundel. Chapter 1, we get to scry 2, then draw 2. Chapter 2, we create a treasure token and a 2/2 bird token with flying. In Chapter 3, we get to put a flying counter on each creature we control that does not have flying. Now we have Tale of Tinneville. Chapter 1, target creature will gain indestructible as long as we control the tail. And then Chapter 2, we can return any creature from our graveyard back to the battlefield. Then Chapter 3, up to 2 target creatures will gain lifelink until the end of turn. Now we have Vault 87, Forced Evolution. Chapter 1, we're going to gain control of target non-mutant creature for as long as we control Vault 87. Chapter 2, we get to put a +1 counter on target creature, and it'll become a mutant in addition to its other types. In Chapter 3, we get to draw cards equal to the greatest power among mutants we control. Now we have my absolute favorite saga, The Cruelty of Gix. Chapter 1, Target opponent will reveal their hand. You get to choose a creature or a planeswalker, then they discard that card. Chapter 2, we get to search our library for any card, and we lose 3 life. And then Chapter 3, we can put any creature from any graveyard on the battlefield under our control. Now we have the Horus Heresy. Chapter 1, for each opponent, we get to gain control of one target non-legendary creature that player controls for as long as we control Horus Heresy. Chapter 2, we get to draw a card for each creature we control but do not own. Then Chapter 3, starting with you, each player will choose a creature and destroy each chosen creature that way. Now we have some non-saga enchantments. So we have Brimstone Roundup. Whenever we cast our second spell each turn, we get to create a 1/1 red mercenary creature that has an activated ability where target creature gets +1/+0, but we can only do this as a sorcery. It also has plot, so for 2 colors and 1 red, we can exile this from our hand and cast it at a later time without paying its mana cost. Now we have Sheltered by Ghosts. In case we need to deal with a certain permanent our opponent has, we're going to enchant a creature we control, and we're going to exile target non-land permanent a opponent controls until Sheltered by Ghosts leaves the battlefield. But the enchanted creature will get +1/+0, lifelink, and have ward 2. So our opponents have to pay 2 colors just to target that creature. Now we have Windcrag Siege. When it enters the battlefield, we can choose either Mardu or Jeskai, depending on which one you choose. If you choose Mardu, if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent, it'll trigger a additional time. Or if you choose Jeskai, every single upkeep, we get to create a 1/1 goblin token that'll gain lifelink and haste until the end of turn. Now we have Chains of Custody. We're going to enchant a creature we control, and it'll exile another non-land permanent a opponent controls until that leaves the battlefield. But the enchanted creature will have ward 2. Now we have Detention Sphere. When this enters the battlefield, we're going to exile a non-land permanent other than Detention Sphere and all other non-land permanents that share the same name. So if our opponents controlled a whole bunch of like treasure tokens or made a whole bunch of human tokens, we can exile all of them that have the same name. Now we have good old Mirari's Wake. Creatures will get +1/+1, and anytime we tap a land for mana, it'll produce a additional mana of that type. We do have one planeswalker that's really going to help us out. So we have Elspeth Stormslayer. This will enter with 5 loyalty counters on it, and has a static effect. If we would create a token, it'll create twice that many instead. We're going to +1 her to create a 1/1 soldier token. So in theory, when we +1 her, we're going to create 2 of those soldiers. Or 0, we get to put a +1 counter on each creature we control, and they will gain flying until your next turn. Or -3, we get to destroy target creature a opponent controls with mana cost 3 or greater. Okay, let's get into the artifacts. Of course, we have our Soul Ring, Elixir of Immortality, because all these sagas are going to sacrifice themselves. So we're going to want a way to shuffle them back in and just keep casting these sagas over and over again. Now we have the Soul Stone. This one is absolutely ridiculous. It's a indestructible artifact. It'll tap for a black mana. And then for 6 colors and 1 black, we can exile any creature we control that will harness the Soul Stone. And once it's harnessed, every single upkeep, we can return any creature card from our graveyard back to the battlefield. Of course, we're a 5-color deck, so we have Chromatic Lantern. All our lands are going to be able to tap for whatever color we need. Now we have Unlicensed Hearse. This one is going to be very good at dealing with cards in our opponent's graveyard. When we activate it, we're going to exile up to 2 target cards from any graveyard. And when we crew it, it'll become a creature where its power and toughness are equal to all the cards that were exiled with Unlicensed Hearse. Now we have Urza's Incubator. When it enters the battlefield, we get to choose a creature type. We're going to choose Horse, and creatures of the chosen type will cost 2 colors less to cast. Now we have Alacrian Armory. Creatures will get a +1 bonus to their toughness rather than their power, but they'll have vigilance. In every single combat, we can choose up to 1 target mount or vehicle, and that permanent becomes saddled or becomes a artifact creature. We're going to use this to get around tapping creatures to either crew the vehicle or saddle the mount. Okay, let's get into the instance. We have our Aladmiri's Call. That way we can search our library for any creature card that we need. Now we have Force Away. We can return any target creature back to its owner's hand. In case we need to protect our own creature, we can do that. But if we control a creature with power 4 or greater, we can then draw a card and then discard. Now we have Shoot the Sheriff. We can destroy any non-outlaw creature. Outlaws are assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. Now we have Deadly Rollick. As long as we control our commander, we can cast this without paying its mana cost. Or for 4 mana, we can exile any creature we want. Okay, let's get into the sorceries. Of course, we have Demonic Tutor. That way we can go get whatever card we need. Okay, now we have Take for a Ride. We're going to gain control of target creature until the end of turn. We're going to untap that creature, and that creature will gain haste. But we can cast this as though it was an instant, as long as we committed a crime. What that means is either we target a opponent, or anything they control or own, or their graveyard. Now we have Terminal Agony. This has a madness cost, so if we discard this card, we can pay 1 black and a red to destroy target creature. Now we have Raise the Palisade. We're going to choose a creature type, and then we're going to return all creatures that are not the chosen type back to their owner's hand. So we're going to name Horse. Most opponents aren't going to play horses, which is kind of fun. So we're going to bounce every single one of those creatures. Okay, let's get into the land base. This is a very simple land base. So we have our command tower, Mana Confluence, Cavern of Souls. We're going to name Horse, that way it can't be countered. We have Reflecting Pool, Exotic Orchard. Now we got a new one. We have Bucolic Ranch. This will add 1 mana of any color, but only to cast mount spells. Or we can pay 3 colorless, look at the top card. If it's a mount, we get to put that into our hand. Now we got some fetch lands. So we have Flooded Strand, Marsh Flats, and Windswept Heath. Now we have some basic land fetches. So we have Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. Now we need the lands to go get. So we have Zago Triome, Savai Triome, Overgrown Tomb, Hallow Fountain, and Sacred Foundry. We have Bleachbone Verge, which I think should be Godless Shrine. Now we have Mistrise Village. This will enter tapped unless we control a mountain or forest. That's not a problem. It'll tap for a blue mana, or we can pay 1 blue, and then the next spell we cast cannot be countered. Now we have Ancient Tomb. We have Reliquary Tower. Because we're going to be drawing cards, we want to keep those cards in our hand. Now we have Mutavault. Mutavault will become a 2/2 creature. That's every single creature type. It's going to be a horse. It's going to be a hippo. It's going to be a squirrel. It'll be whatever creature you want it to be. We have 4 plains, 3 islands, 3 swamps, 2 mountains, and 1 forest. And that was the Commander deck tech for Horse Sagas. I really hope you guys enjoyed this 5-color Horse Saga build. It's really fun with all the different interactions that Power of the Herd can come up with while focusing on a creature type that he truly enjoys playing. I'm very happy to showcase this deck for him. He's been a long time subscriber and supporter of this channel, but I want to hear from you guys. If you guys really enjoyed this build, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out Power of the Herd's channel on YouTube. Give him some support as well. And until next time, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.